As a continuation of my miracle story from my mother, Mrs. Libo Eckstein, I felt just to mention that this story of miracles doesn't stop. The miracles never cease. In 2003, my mother had this real wish and rotzen to go back to the place where she endured hell on earth. We never wanted her to go back because obviously my mother, who came out of Auschwitz alone with no parents, no brothers, no sisters, totally alone. But she built up a life with children and grandchildren, and by the time she was nifta, there was Knaina Hora, over 50 children and grandchildren after her. And this is from one person alone. So this is a true miracle, how a person from her town, alone completely by herself, built up a family, the Shameless Seferis. I feel this story which I'm going to say is going to be a story which will be left for generations, and I felt that I had to film it. Why? Because it's a story that you will not believe unless you hear it from the person himself. This story actually took place in 2003. My mother always wanted to go back to this place called Auschwitz, where she stayed and she had this terrible experience. And what she wanted to go back there was to put Yortzeit candles and to say a Kaddish, that a Kaddish should be said for her parents. She felt that was her tafkid in life, and she felt that's what she wanted to do. And we never wanted her to go back. Obviously, the emotions and what could affect her, we decided, no, she's not to go back. However, in 2003, Chabad did a one-day tour, which our Rav then gave us his blessing and his permission to take my mother back as long as she did not stay overnight. I looked at the itinerary, and the itinerary said that the tour, or so we call it, started in Birkenau. My mother said she was in Auschwitz, so we took it that this was a sort of a smooth transition, a sort of starting part for her tour, and it wouldn't be straight into the hell where she went into, and it will sort of blend her in slowly, and she won't be so traumatized by the event. We went to Birkenau, and my first impressions of Birkenau was just astonishing. The place is absolutely massive. It is, to say that you can see from one end to the other, you can't. To say you can see how big it is, you can't. It's just one big, huge mass. Most of the bunks where people used to live were destroyed. There's quite a few at the front which were conserved into museum pieces, and maybe one or two scattered elsewhere, but the Germans, they decided to destroy as much evidence as they could, and they destroyed as many bunks as they could. Taking my mother to Birkenau, as she walked in, it was an amazing feeling. She felt she was here. She said, you know something, this is all what the tour guides were saying was untrue. We went into the first bunk, into the first museum piece, and there was toilets inside. My mother said, toilets inside a bunk? Are you absolutely crazy? They made the toilets outside, so the time we got to the toilets, we didn't need it anymore. That was part of the punishment, part of the pain they created, that we had to go outside in the freezing cold and endure the cold, and that was also a terrible punishment. And that's what she said about the whole place. And she said, as she saw a picture of the trucks and the trains arriving, she says, do you know something? I should have been in that gas chamber. I says, what do you mean? I was 14 years old, 12 or 14 years old, and Machshamoy, I think it was Mengele who actually did this selection, and she was pointing right, left. It came to me, and I was actually pointed, like my other siblings, towards the gas chambers. At that instant, my mother, she said, my mother shouted, "Sie ist 18, sie ist 18, she's 18, she's 18." And then my mother pushed me, my mother said, to the other side, literally pushed me to the other side. I started crying, wanting to go to my mother. I was then given the choice, my mother said, by Eichmann himself, or Mengele. I was pointed, which way do you want to go, right or left? My mother, somehow, for some reason, didn't see her mother there, and she chose to stay alive. That's what kept her alive. So that is an amazing thing, that she was, even in the time of selection, she was sort of pushed away from death. She then said, she went into the gas chambers, she went into the washing place, and as she came out, very straight afterwards, something very strange happened. She actually recognized her father. And she asked her father, "Where's Mummy? Where is the children?" And all he answered me back was, "In a besseren Platz," in a better place. Not that I realised, but I seeing my father, that last second, knowing that he was alive, literally kept me alive during my whole stay in Auschwitz. I dreamt my father would meet me again afterwards. That's what kept me alive. And during every selection, my mother said, where she was selected to go to everyone around her was selected to go to the gas chambers, just remember there was 2 selections every single day. And this happened for 7 months that my mother was there, or however long she was there, but she never once got selected. She felt that the hand of Mengele always skipped over her. Why? She doesn't know. Notwithstanding this, my mother decided, of all these miracles, and I just mentioned a few, she had to come back to this place where her parents and her father and her mother had died to say a Kaddish for them and for her brothers and sisters. So she saved a koiches because the whole group then decided to go to the crematorium in Birkenau and to say a Kirmol Rachmim and a Kaddish and a short prayer for everyone who had perished there. It was a long walk. It was about a 20-minute walk. My mother, who was an elderly lady who had suffered very, 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 very severely from arthritis, found walking very difficult. So I said, Mummy, go back on the bus, save your strength, save your koiches for later when you go to Auschwitz. And this walk to the Birkenau, which you'll never hear, so it doesn't have so much of relevance to you. Save the koiches, go on the bus, and I'll go up there and we'll meet later. And as we walked into Auschwitz, my mother looks around and she starts screaming, she starts shouting. She says, Shruti, this is not Auschwitz. This is a lie. It's one big lie. I was never here. This building wasn't there. The kitchens, they said as you walk in the kitchen on the left, that is totally untrue. And she was getting very excited. She says, I want to go to Auschwitz. I want to go say a Kaddish for my parents. I want to say a prayer. I want to put a candle in the crematorium to commemorate their death. This is not Auschwitz. And she was getting very agitated and very, 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 very moody. Anyway, one of the tour guides came up to her and says, lady, what's the matter? My mother answered, I want to go to Auschwitz. I was in Zeylager Dratzen, that's block C13. Block C13, that's not here. Says, where is it? That's in Birkenau. I was in Auschwitz, my mother says. So the guide asked my mother, what year did you come? Says, I came in 1944. 44? You never came here. All the Hungarians ended up in Birkenau. But I was in Auschwitz, my mother screamed. Correct. One was called Auschwitz I, one was called Auschwitz II. Later on, or sometime, the name changed from Auschwitz to Birkenau. My mother was distraught, and she says, sorry, I came all this way to say a Kaddish. I was there, and I didn't manage to go to the crematorium. I said, Mummy, don't worry, we'll take a taxi back. And this was in 2003, and you won't believe it. We go out of Auschwitz, and I tell the Lesser group we'll meet them back in the airport. They shouldn't wait for us. But as soon as I come out of the camp, Auschwitz camp, as a taxi came. And this taxi driver spoke perfect English. And we told him our predicament. I said, my mother can't walk. She wants to go to the crematorium to put the candle in. Can you help us? And you won't believe it. He says, you know something? Just by the crematorium, there's a hole in the fence. And you walk this hole in the fence, and that takes you right to the crematorium. My mother turns around to him and says, you must be Eliyahu Hanavi. You must be Elijah. And it was quite funny she said that, because you'll see why later on. Anyway, lo and behold, as we get closer to Auschwitz, he says, see over there? That's where the hole is. And there was the hole in the fence in Birkenau. But anyway, as we walked through this hole in the fence, my mother suddenly said, you know something? You see this fence over there by the road? We used to stand by this fence, and the Polishers used to throw bread. I remember this. And she says, look over there. She points with her hand, look over there. That is my bunk. I didn't believe her. There was 2 bunks in the middle of nowhere. And I look there, I put my camera and I zoom in, and you wouldn't believe it. On the edge, on the side of the bunk, it says 13. We go towards the bunk, and my mother said, this is where I slept, and I'll prove it to you. She says, why? What's behind it? I say it'd be 12, 14. No, it'll be 8. C8. Because my friend, who was called Mrs. Sinnison, she was there. Later on, I had verified this, and this was true. We walk into this bunk. It hadn't been open for 60 years. There's a rusty nail at the door. I broke in. My mother says, you're breaking in. I wanted to break out. But anyway, we walk in there, and then my mother was 100% right. These Polish tour guides said there was toilets in the bunks. There was no toilet in this bunk. This bunk hadn't been touched for 60 years. The slats were exactly how they were. My mother points to one of the slats. She says, that's where I slept. That's where I was. There were 8 of us in a small, maybe 4-foot wide berth or 6-foot wide berth. 4 or 5 of us literally cramped in. One of us moved, all of us had to move. It was a terrible experience, she says. That's where I slept. Anyway, she says, I came out of here, and she bangs her foot on the floor. And she says in Yiddish, Hitler, wer bist du? Ich bin do mein Kind, ich hab Kinder, ich hab einiglich. She said to Hitler, Hitler, where are you? I'm here with my child. I've got children, I've got grandchildren. You have nothing. You're dead. You're absolutely nothing. This is my revenge to you. I have come back to show you I am alive. The Jewish nation survives with miracles. I'm here with my children and I have grandchildren. What do you have? She opens up a Tehillim and she says the kapitel of Hodul Hashem Ki Tov, thanking Hashem for all the mercy and all the thing that He did her to sustain her. I tell her, say, Mummy, it's getting late. Let's go to the crematorium and